everybody. How you doing? I am Danielle Lynn. If you haven't heard this program before, it's all about life. And for a couple of hours each weekend, we talk about the things that we think are relevant and certainly significant in making a difference in the quality of your life. And in this hour, we will share an extraordinary conversation with an extraordinary and beyond extraordinary human being. The book is called The Extraordinary Healing Power of the Ordinary Things. And I picked this book up, and this gentleman, I was just telling him that over the years, he is not only a great luminary in the field of natural healing and mind-body intervention and medicine, and I would venture to say a pioneer, really an explorer of the days when this wasn't even in the conversation of the medical world. He's a former internist and chief of staff of Medical City Dallas Hospital and the former co-chair of the panel on mind-body interventions, and also the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. I mean, it goes on and on with his work from the National Institutes of Health. He's also the executive editor of Explore, the Journal of Science and Healing, and the author of 9 books on the role of consciousness and spirituality and healing, and has been recognized by some of the greatest periodicals in the world for the work he has done. I will say that over the years, Dr. Larry Dossey has become one of the lights in the darkest of tunnels as we make our way into technological adolescence and we move away from nature into healing outside of our own beingness. His books are Bibles to many who have chosen the choice to say, enough is enough. And he does it in a graceful enough way that he can have the conversation from both sides of the table. This is a very important book. It's called, it has 14 natural steps to health and happiness. But as I was saying, Dr. Dossey, and welcome to our program. So pleased that you're here.
Well, I'm pleased also. Thanks for asking me.
I know you told me to do a short bio on you, but as I was reading through it, I just felt compelled. And I started thinking about, your background. You served as an internship. You served an internship as a battalion surgeon in Vietnam, and you've worked in the trenches of conventional medicine and came out running and said, there's got to be a better way, and you actually retired from your medical practice in 1988. First of all, why did you do that?
Well, one has to make choices. Actually, I'm not very smart in many ways. I nearly killed myself trying to practice internal medicine 90 or 100 hours a week, and including nights and many weekends, and I was trying to write and consult and travel at the same time, and obviously that's crazy, and I developed some health problems which forced me to make a choice, and I decided that I could be more influential if I went the route of writing and lecturing, and so here we are.
Yeah, and you've played such an important role of consciousness and healing in the field of integrative medicine, and all over the world, you've been recognized, and I know you're a humble man, and I know that you also were involved. Listen, folks, he delivered the annual Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Lecture in New Delhi. He's the only physician that had ever been invited to do so. This conversation that we're going to share today really is about a shift in the way we think and the way we're doing things and the way we've been doing things. Each day I'm compelled inside. I was sitting talking to somebody today about their development as a human being in a business model that we were working together. And a magpie had flown across my yard. They're kind of insidious little birds anyway. And I see him, and he's carrying a branch that is like 5 times larger than this little body of his. And then I saw him land on the ground, and he was hopping. And he was hopping because he only had one leg. And it was such a metaphor for life to me about the fact that we're operating on one leg, and yet we're blind by the potential of the extraordinary nature of what is right in front of us, because most of us have 2 legs and we've forgotten the gift. We've forgotten human nature. And you address this in the extraordinary healing power of ordinary things. Will you address that very fact of how far we've come from nature and what impact it's having on our lives?
Well, I'm struck by your magpie encounter this morning, and it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings. We are all angels with only one wing. We can only fly if we help one another. And so that's one of the most profound lessons that I've learned, that healing is a collective endeavor, and we really are all in this together. I think that we have paid a huge price for extracting ourselves from the natural order and putting nature out there as if it's on the other side of a one-way glass. When we set ourselves into opposition with nature, that's an invitation for disaster. I think that this really is a no-brainer. You know, if we lose the environment, it's not going to matter much, Danielle, how many trans fats we have in our diet, or whether we exercised, or how much we meditated, and so on. The environment really ought to come first. I was struck just this morning by a study that's going around the internet today, looking at the incidence of a horrible disease called primary biliary cirrhosis, where the liver becomes hardened and cirrhotic and quits working, and the only hope for these folks is a liver transplant. Well, guess where most of these diseases crop up? In close proximity to toxic waste sites. So we can't be healthy without attending to nature first, and I think that we've really gone in the wrong direction by ignoring that. As if we just take care of our own minds and our bodies, everything's going to be okay. That's as good as far as it goes, but it doesn't go far enough. We're embedded in nature whether we like it or not.
Well, and the idea now is conquer nature. Nature is the enemy.
Well, that's the old idea that unfortunately has also been perpetrated not by vigorous and energetic Western materialistic science, but also, I'm sorry to say, by many of our Western religions, who saw this as God's gift to us to be conquered and to use for our benefit. We've almost forgotten that biblical religious injunction that we are caretakers and stewards. I think our religions need to do a better job. For example, many of the religions on the side of the religious right have actually looked with impunity and have tried to ignore the issue of global warming, and have actually perpetrated some mistruths about it, as if there's no scientific consensus about it. That's just flat out wrong. I think it's immoral, frankly. And I think many of our religious organizations need to wake up about this issue in particular.
Well, it is interesting that we could go to war over a cartoon. We could kill people over a cartoon. We could, the disconnect, and this is not a program to judge. This is just an open conversation about the idea that we all know that we're not happy. We're not healthy. We're not doing a great job at our system. Our economic system, no matter how much they want to PR it, the average person, you take a cell phone and you take health insurance into a ghetto, and the truth is that someone's going to choose a cell phone more than health insurance because we want to be connected so badly because we're so disconnected that we will sacrifice something that needs to be attended to just to make sure that we have some sense of something that bonds us culturally.
Well, that's entirely true. When I talk to my physician colleagues all over the country at medical schools and hospitals about these issues, I remind them that we really do need to rethink some of the directions that we've taken in Western hardcore scientific medicine. We have, in many ways, lost our way, and it's time to admit that. Let me give you just two examples. If you look at longevity in the nations of the world, we are now 26 behind countries like Slovenia and Costa Rica. We spend 3 times as much money on healthcare in this country as the closest, nearest competitor. And if you look at infant mortality, we're doing horribly. We're 39th in the world, behind Aruba and Cuba.
We've got so much more in this hour. I'm telling you, in all the years, I have never had the chance or the privilege, because of my own brain, I don't know why, to interview Dr. Larry Dossey, but he's here with us in this hour. The book is called The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things. I'm Danielle Lynn. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Danielle Lynn Show, DanielleLin.com. Scratching your head when buying a natural supplement for immune and gut health? It's not surprising. Your microbiome is complicated, and so is the whole probiotic category. What's clear is that 80% of your immune system is housed in the gut. If your gut is not working properly, it can cause poor digestion, brain fog, immune imbalance, allergies, and even inflammation. Making sure it's functioning correctly is essential. No one knows that better than world-renowned microbiologist Dr. Lyubov Sichel, backed by 20-plus years of research in metabiotics. Dr. Sichel's scientific breakthroughs changed our understanding of immune and digestive health. A next generation of probiotics was born, Delimmune V. Delimmune V works immediately to boost immune and microbiota support to fight infections and balance digestion. It works when you need it the most. Try Delimmune V daily for maintenance and defense for enhanced support at StellarBiotics.com. That's StellarBiotics.com. Discount code Danielle.
This place has a pulse. You hear it in the canopy, feel it in the ground. Life, fully illuminated, engulfs you. From the birds singing in the treetops above to the tiniest insects in the soil below, you take a deep, cleansing breath, filling your lungs with the essence of the forest. Now, imagine it's all gone. Healthy, life-giving forests reduced to nothing. No singing birds, no lush canopy, and water and food in short supply around the world. Time is running out to protect our forests, and without our love, they can and will disappear. It's our choice. Love it or lose it. Help protect our forests. Visit World Wildlife Fund at wwf.org/love.
There is nothing more important than your health. I'm sure you've heard that before. It's an easy thing to say, but navigating the path to wellness and balance can take years of trial and error to know what works best for your body and lifestyle, especially if you're living with aching or sore joints. That's where Mariva comes in. Combining science and Mother Nature, Mariva from Indina addresses oxidative stress and free radical damage at the source with superior bioavailability, reliable and effective, so that you can feel the difference. With 36 clinical studies and 10 years of research, Mariva represents the greatest breakthrough in curcumin in the world, independently endorsed by the Cleveland Clinic, containing natural active components that modulate healthy inflammatory response signals and support ache management, so you get the relief you need. Guaranteed results and consistent quality from Indina, celebrating 100 years committed to improving the quality of life. For more information about Mariva, visit indina.com, MERIVA, Mariva. We continue in this hour of the book called The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things. I'm Danielle Lynn with Dr. Larry Dawsey. This is a great time for me. Over the last few weeks, I get off the program and I'm so filled. And I hope that you are too, because I'm not sure that there are that many places on the planet where we can have a conversation for an hour or two each weekend and talk about the things, because I'll be honest with you. 20 years ago or so, and that will date me, when I went on the air with this program, first of all, I couldn't get a medical doctor to come on because I was the quack brain, and I was the oddball out, and I kept saying, no, it's going to be important, it's going to be important. A station took me off the air many years ago and told me not to talk about the water. They said nobody wanted to hear about these kinds of subjects. And a big syndicator, one of the largest contracts I could have ever had in my life, who wanted to take me on, put me in what they call what do they call it when you start up in baseball, the minor leagues. They said they wanted to take me into the minor leagues and develop me, but the only thing they had that was really important to share was I was not allowed to mention the word consciousness on the air. And I explained that to you, Dr. Dawsey. I just looked at him and was like, well, then I guess there's no more to be said. And maybe I took my career in a totally different direction, but at least we can have these conversations. And I still own the show, and nobody can tell me not to talk about consciousness because, that was so obvious that there was something going on. And when you own that much power and you can, influence people's minds, it was a great shock to me. In your book, you really are getting down to the core of some very important issues that will make a difference. We're not just having a conversation about, this and that and this and that and complaining and whining. You reveal some important things, just the simplest things of thinking about that there were more heart attacks on Monday morning than any other time during the week. Just even a fact like that is enough to throw something out for a conversation.
Well, I think it should be a reason for conversation, even at the highest levels in our medical school. And as a matter of fact, it is. The conversation is back, and it's gathering self-esteem. It's not going to go away. There's too much evidence, and people are not going to be able to put it back in the bottle. I believe, Danielle, that you have lived long enough to have your revenge over the C word, consciousness. And you can't take it out of medicine and understand why people live and why they die. You've mentioned a superb example, this Black Monday syndrome, it's called. More deaths in American men on Monday mornings at about 9 o'clock than at any other time in the week. This is a powerful example of the role of meaning in people's lives to make the difference in life and death. What is the meaning of Monday? You know, when the clock rolls around to 9 a.m. on Monday, what does that, what bells and whistles go off in you around that? We can't ignore the meaning of the events in our lives. I remember when meaning was just considered something utterly frivolous that floated around as just an idea in your brain above your clavicles and never did anything else. But that's a trivialized view, not only of meaning, but of spirituality and of consciousness in general.
Absolutely. There was a line that you said, "We are taught in medical school that it is unethical to paint a rosy future for a patient who is facing a grave health challenge." Whoa.
Yeah, we do that, and I think it's unethical to do that, to shy away from from being honest to people about the optimistic possibilities for them. Let me put it that way. If we don't emphasize the positive, then people emphasize the negative, assuming that's what we're predicting for them. If doctors shy away from optimism and giving hope, that can be lethal. And people ought to really give some thought about whether or not they carry an optimistic attitude into a doctor's office and into the hospital or not. Because the plain fact is, and here's the bottom line on this optimism business, which is the lead chapter in the new book, people who are optimistic live longer, and they have a lower incidence of all the major diseases than pessimists do. So optimism is not just feeling. If you look at people who go through cardiac illnesses and have a heart cath, and you look at how they do 2 years down the line, if you're a pessimist, you have 8 times the risk of dying as the optimists do. A study came out just 2 days ago. It's making the rounds of the internet now, looking at the death rates in pessimists and optimists in men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. If people were optimistic, they had a 55% lower incidence of heart disease than people who were pessimistic. I don't know anything you can do to lower the incidence of heart disease in elderly men by 55%. So, you know, the skeptics may try to wish away this business of consciousness and meaning and so on, but it's just not going to work. It's just too important.
No, it's and the idea of, you know, you living a purpose, that you have some reason to be here, which is, you know, very much when you live a spiritual, you know, lifestyle, if you will. And what I don't mean going to church on Sunday. I'm talking about living in a conscious way. That you know, seeking out that idea of why am I here, what am I doing, and how do I relate to it, and applying that into, as you talk about, the healing community and the things that we need to do. You know, there was one thing I read about, you can develop a muscle, and I've always thought this. I always thought this was the core. I used to put my arms out as a little girl, and I used to think, I can tighten this muscle if I just go in and I look at the cells and I allow them to be fully engaged. And I would just think this as a little person, and of course everyone thought I was just crazy again. But now you write about the fact that you can actually visualize, and a muscle will be stronger.
Well, this comes out of work out of the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the hotshot scientific medical centers in the country, in the world. Dr. Guang Yu is a rehabilitation specialist there, and he's been working with people who come in with muscle problems, for example, paralysis following a stroke. He and his team have shown that if people simply sit down, clear their mind, and imagine their muscles contracting, that when you retest them after they've been doing this several weeks, the muscles are upwards of 30 to 40% stronger. Now, how is that possible?
That is amazing.
You know, this is hardcore research. It's been replicated by other people as well. So there's some deep connection between our thoughts and the rest of our body that we are appallingly ignorant of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's time we woke up.
Well, the other 90%, if it is that they say, because who knows what part of the brain we're really using. I often, I just look in there and I think, well, if we were designed with a brain and we're only using a percentage of it, what could possibly be in there? And of late, because I've done so many interviews over the years, you can pretty much see trends in conversations and waves of thoughts of consciousness coming if you interview and talk to enough people and they say a similar thing. So I started really giving this some thought, and then I did some meditations with some, different symbols. And I thought, well, if it's so that this other percentage of the brain has not opened yet, then possibly it's because as a race we weren't capable of handling the possibility of what's actually in there, which is where I believe now that we're heading, in that we'll understand this level of capacity that we have to take responsibility within ourselves, that it's not about a doctor, that it's not about a religious belief, that it's within us, and that capability is opening a little by little by little as we're understanding these factors that you address in the extraordinary healing power of ordinary things.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we have a huge job to do in opening up those parts of our brain that have to do with imagining the possible. Let me just give you one example. There are several studies now, about a couple of dozen, that show that our thoughts and our intentions can affect events not only in the present, but quite possibly in the past as well. At this point, people say, wait a minute, you can't affect the past. That's why we call it the past. It's already happened. But the experiments say otherwise. A colleague of mine, Dr. Brian Olshansky, who is a premier cardiologist at the University of Iowa, and I got involved in this aspect of reality, so to speak. 3 or 4 years ago, we published a paper in the British Medical Journal which analyzed a study showing that when people pray in the present moment, when they try to extend loving, compassionate thoughts and intentions to people who are sick, it can affect the hospital course of people who were hospitalized 4 to 10 years earlier. Now, we're going to need the remaining percentage of our brain to come to grips with possibilities like this. So I'm glad we've got some of that brain tissue on reserve because I personally believe that the world is stranger than we anticipated having been, and I think that it's a lot weirder and actually a lot more wonderful than we've anticipated. And we're going to need all of our mental capacities to come to grips with this.
Wonderful. We're talking with Dr. Larry Dossey, the book, The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things. And this is so cool because we're going to talk about, the things that we're learning about some of the aspects, just excitement and wonder. And that alone can decrease with repeated exposure to the same experience. I'm telling you, when you start putting stuff into your brain 1 hour at a time, 1 second, 1 moment, one thought, by the time this hour is over, you're going to feel more excited about life than you ever felt before. I'm Danielle Lynn. You're listening to The Danielle Lynn Show, DANIELLELLIN.com. I'm Danielle Lynn. Stay tuned. DanielleLynn.com.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
We're all good at something. Maybe it's breakdancing or skateboarding or video games. Whatever you're good at, you had the skills to make it happen. And those same skills will help us get to college. Visit knowhowtogo.org to learn what you should be doing right now to prepare for college. Start taking the steps at knowhowtogo.org.
I've got what it takes. So do you.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Move Time Radio, presented by the Arthritis Foundation. Ah, that's a good one. Get up and dance, baby. If you're driving, pull over to the shoulder. If you're at work, yeah, time to violate the employee handbook. See, movement is just one of the ways to help fight osteoarthritis pain. Another is weight loss. You get rid of just 1 pound, that's 4 pounds of pressure off each knee. For more information on managing pain, visit fightarthritispain.org, baby. This message is brought to you by the Arthritis Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Joe Perry and Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, here for RAD, recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving. Yeah, you know we love it when the music does the talking.
And you know, the music stops when someone gets killed.
So never let someone you know get behind the wheel if they've been drinking. So keep it real, keep it real. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
What's one of your favorite memories?
That's a tough question. Well, there was this one time I went camping with my parents in a forest back when I was maybe like 8 or 9. And I can remember one night we were laying out in our hammocks and we were just, watching the trees rustling in the wind above us, and we could hear the sounds of the forest all around us. Frogs singing and owls calling and the creek running nearby. It was amazing. It felt like we were a part of it all. I don't know if I do it justice trying to describe it, but I'll definitely never forget it.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
So you probably said to yourself, what the heck is she talking about? When I was talking when we went into the break, I'm here with Dr. Larry Dawsey. I'm Danielle Lynn. The book is called The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things. It is available. If you go to our website, it is available through Amazon. It's so great that we can do that now. And here's what it is. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Dr. Dawsey, I'd like to read this because I think it's pretty cool when you talk about novelty, because in any other sense it might be misconstrued, but excitement and wonder decrease with repeated exposure to the same experience. Even pleasurable events eventually become boring, but the repercussions of repetition extend beyond simple and new. So the studies show that rats open to exploring unfamiliar mazes live much longer than rats that play it safe and stick to old habits to avoid new experiences. Now you talk about this with the idea that novelty is one of the most important and potent ways of preventing Alzheimer's. Novelty, that seems like such a trite word.
Well, it basically is just a huge word, I think. It suggests that we should be open to newness and the extraordinary experiences that come our way and not shut them out, and consider devising ways of getting out of our ruts, routines, and habits. This may sound just like pop psychology, but the data show otherwise. In studies looking at tens of thousands of American women, the researchers found out that those women who opened themselves up during middle age to new experiences, such as reading books, doing crossword puzzles, or simple things like playing Scrabble or even bingo, women who were willing to take on novel situations like that preserved more of their mental faculties as they got older. This was a shocker to these researchers because they thought things like exercise and keeping your weight down and watching your diet were going to outweigh all those other factors. But the novelty hook was the one that people just pay more attention to, I think.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Oh, I went to war in Vietnam as a battalion surgeon.
Wow. Why do you say that?
Because I was thinking crazily. I actually thought that it was the thing to do at that time, and I actually volunteered for that. And it took me about a month over there to realize that this is one of the craziest things I've ever done in my life. That was craziness. That was 5-star craziness.
What'd you learn about life?
Well, I learned how to stay alive. I learned also that even rational people can get sucked into situations like that against their better judgment. I became mesmerized by the war. I volunteered for another 6 months. I became overtaken by what psychologists call the archetype of war. It's a very powerful thing, and people who have never experienced that haven't a clue about how good people could be caught up in it. And I certainly was, and it took me many years to understand that and to escape the emotional trauma of that.
I'm having a fish moment. You know what a fish moment is?
Help me out, dear.
Well, a fish moment is when, like, have you ever wondered when you look at an aquarium how, like, the fish can go back and forth and back and forth, and they seem happy enough. Well, I've been told that, like, they have a loss of memory every 15 seconds, so by the time they get to the other side, they actually forgot that they were there. So now I have fish moments. And I was in the office supply store about a year ago, and I met a young gentleman with a wonderful presence, but very deep intensity. And what do they call it when you're the one that actually goes out and starts the war? You're the first lead guy out. There's a name for it.
The point man.
Yeah, and there's another word that's even like, not mercenary, but it's a word like that.
Huh.
I forget, what do they call it, like when you're in that battalion or something? Anyway, it'll come to pass. He was the one that was the guy that would go out.
Uh-huh.
And he was the point man. He was the one that would start the war.
Yeah.
And he was in his 20s, and he came back, and he was working in this store, and I started talking to him, and I said, just tell me a little bit about you, and just because we had one of those conversations. And he said, I'm having a really hard time adjusting. And I said, to what? And he said, well, I was the guy that was out on the field that started the war, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I am back here, and I can't find my place. And I was totally blown away by the possibility that could engage a human being to that dimension.
Did you see the statistics that came out this week showing the percentage of kids coming back from Iraq who are in need of psychiatric services?
I didn't.
It's about 30%. So we have a new wave of emotionally traumatized kids coming back, and well, this could get to be a long conversation about the war, but
yeah, well, it goes back to what you were talking about in the beginning, is we are so off in our perception of reality right now of what is really pure and healthy and right and living. And when I was in Israel and I spent a lot of time on both sides, I came to realize that at any moment, and what's it going to take at any moment for us to shift this perception. And really, at the end of the day, you address this in The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things. It's not the extraordinary that does it. There was a man who once said to me, be willing to pay the price for a short period of time to live an extraordinary life. And when I was reading your book, I thought the same thing. It's the ordinary, it's the everyday. So in your everyday life, what is it that you can bring to the table for the people that are out there that are saying, great, yet another book, yet another line, yet another hour on talk radio that is going to change somebody's life and perception today?
Well, I would say to people like that, for 90% of your life, you're going to need not high-tech, expensive, high-powered, and often lethal forms of intervention, such as is represented in modern medicine. What you're going to need are very simple things that are free, that are freely obtainable, that are quite obvious, and which are natural. And so if you want to live a long and healthy life and be happy in the process, you better wake up and pay attention to what you can do, what you can choose, instead of farming out your health care to somebody in a white coat with a stethoscope around their neck. This sounds like a simple sort of warning, but this is an issue of life and death. I'll give you an example why. Every year in this country, we manage to bump off 225,000 people in our hospitals because of the mistakes and errors that are made by hospital staff and by the side effects of the drugs that we use in hospitals. Unfortunately, this makes American hospital care the third leading cause of death in the country, behind heart disease and cancer. You do not want to need hospital care. You should not wish to require high-tech, expensive modern medicine. It can be hazardous to your health. I'm not condemning it. I've used it most of my life as an internist. It was there for me when I needed it. But that's not where the premium lies in being healthy for people in our country. It's in paying attention to the simple, obvious things that I've tried to draw attention to in this book.
I mentioned this, and I'm only going to say it because we're recording this broadcast on the birthday of one of my dear friends who just passed away within the last few weeks. And it was this was a beautiful, wonderful, amazing human being who worked herself to death, carried a load for way too long, and I watched it. And she was a makeup artist in the film industry in Europe. Went to the doctors, and some of you heard me tell this story a few weeks back. Went to the doctor, and they said, because she had a pain in her shoulder, went to the doctor, they said she had a frozen shoulder. So they treated her for a frozen shoulder starting in October. So October, November, December, January, frozen shoulder, frozen shoulder. She collapses in January, goes to the hospital. Then her lung collapses. They go in and they see that she not only has lung cancer, but that a tumor had grown under her shoulder blade, which put her into excruciating pain because it dislocated her shoulder, and then it went into her lymph glands, and within 2 weeks she was dead.
Oh my.
And I said to myself, because I learned this lesson a long time ago with my family when my mother got cancer, one of the most dangerous opportunities you have in your life if you want to be exposed is oftentimes to go into those places unaware of what can happen. Now, I am, again, with you. There is a time and a place you have to do it, but you should avoid it at all cost. And this misdiagnosing that's going on because people feel like they have to make a decision is astounding, that you could even mention these numbers, and that when you think about how much bad press goes out about natural products, and I'm not saying all natural products are good, but I'd like to know how many people die each year from the use of natural products. And yet we have more bad press in the natural products industry than any other pharmaceutical or any other industry in the world.
Well, it's clearly a double standard.
We're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we're talking more with Dr. Larry Dossey. This is a very special book, The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things. But more important, he is an extraordinary human being, has been a pioneer in the trenches, in the fields out there, making a difference for you and me and all over the world, coming from a very traditional background and looking at what we need to find balance in our lives. I'm Danielle Lynn. We'll be back. You can find more of us at DanielleLynn.com. My name is spelled DanielleLin. To the Danielle Lynn Show, DanielleLin.com.
100 years ago, there were 100,000 tigers in the wild. Today, there are as few as 3,200. The Earth's wild animals can't speak up when they need help, but we can. Be the voice for those who have no voice. Visit worldwildlife.org.
There are plenty of things to be said for most nutritional supplements, but to tell you the truth, there are so many great benefits with pycnogenol that I had a hard time cutting this down to 60 seconds. Known for its vast impact for improving vascular health, pycnogenol is like the ultimate product you just have to take. It's a must for your daily nutritional program and works in concert, enhancing the other things you do to take care of your skin, heart, joints, and cognition. Not to mention how incredible it is for helping those of you who sit at a desk all day or traveling great distances cramped in those small airplane seats, decreasing circulation. Promoting healthy circulation throughout your body is critical for your well-being. Pycnogenol has 40 years of documented research with more than 450 scientific publications ensuring safety and efficacy as a natural ingredient. Some things in life are just essential. Pycnogenol is one of them. Learn more at pycnogenol.com. Pycnogenol. Pycnogenol.com.
The Amazon's rainforest is being cut down so fast that by 2030, 55% of it could be completely wiped out. The Earth's forests can't speak up when they need help, but we can. Be the voice for those who have no voice. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Don't wait until it's too late to take care of your heart. It's not about fixing problems like high cholesterol or inflammation. It's about preventing them. I am Danielle Lynn with a truly special offer, so you can start now to potentially avoid heart-related problems later. It is the most important organ of your body. You cannot live without your heart. I want to introduce you to one of the most significantly researched and documented natural ingredients in the world. It's called persimmon. The benefits of pure persimmon leaf extract powder have been recommended in Asia for centuries for anti-inflammation, anti-hypertension, and protecting heart and cerebral vessels. Now you can try persimmon for only the cost of shipping. No other commitment. We just want you to try it and focus on keeping your heart protected to stay healthy for a long time. Visit longevitybynature.biz. Use the code DLIN. Pay only $6.95. Yep, just shipping. longevitybynature.biz, code DLIN for persimmon. Regardless of your age and gender, Curazyme is right for everyone to address the wear and tear from living a busy lifestyle. Curazyme is a natural dietary supplement formulated to improve and support overall health and longevity, specifically combined with a highly effective proprietary blend of bioenzymes. Curazyme provides the full spectrum of critical enzymes needed for those who are or are not physically active. Though science clearly shows it is important to keep your body moving and stretching on a regular basis. Many of the enzymes found in Curazyme are naturally produced by your body, but with aging and exposure to life stressors, critical enzymes can get depleted that are essential to initiate and regulate your body's endless biochemical processes, working 24 hours a day to maintain healthy human life. Curazyme aids in relieving stressed joints, tendons, and muscles, gluten, allergy, and dairy-free. It's the natural thing to do, so get moving. Try Curazyme. Notice the difference in how you feel. Available at Curazyme.com, Curezym.com.
If we continue to consume our natural resources at the rate we do now, by 2050, it could take 3 Earths to meet our needs. The Earth can't speak up when it needs help, but we can. Be the voice for those who have no voice. Visit worldwildlife.org.
There is nothing more important than your health. I'm sure you've heard that before. It's an easy thing to say, but navigating the path to wellness and balance can take years of trial and error to know what works best for your body and lifestyle, especially if you're living with aching or sore joints. That's where Mariva comes in. Combining science and Mother Nature, Mariva from Indina addresses oxidative stress and free radical damage at the source with superior bioavailability, reliable and effective, so that you can feel the difference. With 36 clinical studies and 10 years of research, Mariva represents the greatest breakthrough in curcumin in the world, independently endorsed by the Cleveland Clinic, containing natural active components that modulate healthy inflammatory response signals and support ache management, so you get the relief you need. Guaranteed results and consistent quality from Indina, celebrating 100 years committed to improving the quality of life. For more information, visit Mariva.info, MERIVA, from Indina. You're listening to The Danielle Lynn Show, DANIELLELLIN.com. You're listening to The Danielle Lynn Show, DANIELLELLIN.com. Now that we have thoroughly depressed you with all of the morbid facts about life, we're going to hit you with our best shot. If you're not depressed by now, we have Prozac. Don't forget. But you know what? There's some really funny stuff on the other side of it, and we're going to talk because we're talking about the extraordinary healing power of ordinary things. And I think those of us who have been around the other way of looking knows that, you know, there isn't anything special about it. It's just a conversation that needs to be had that isn't had somehow, because we think that the other stuff that's medically away from us or technically away from us is much more special than our own beingness. We have forgotten. And one of the points that Dr. Larry Dossey, you have made in this book, it's it's so basic, it's almost silly, is that we've gotten away from our connection with dirt and how profound that is in what's happened with us.
Well, dirt's back. And I'm really standing up in favor of dirt these days. I've learned a tremendous amount about dirt, which I wasn't aware of when I was researching this book. And I'm happy to have learned that because I grew up on a farm, and we farm kids were always getting dirty, and it drove our mother crazy, but it had tremendous benefits for us. Because kids who grow up in dirty environments, like farm kids, have a more robust immune system than kids who grow up in urban environments and who are kept squeaky clean. And we dirty little kids develop stronger immune systems, and that makes us less prone toward asthma and eczema and infections and allergies and so on. So there's something in medicine now that's called a hygiene hypothesis, which addresses this. And it's simply the idea that at crucial times in our formative years, we need exposure to periodic dirt. And this need not be grim and gruesome. The kids can go out and play in vegetable gardens, do flower gardens, and they can make mud pies like kids used to do, and play outdoors.
Yeah, you're not talking about dirty environments.
No, I'm not talking about not taking showers or anything like that.
Right, you're just talking about, now I'm going to, you have two words in this book which kind of are interesting, cellophane and Listerine. I could probably get taken off the air for this one, but
well, earlier you mentioned we've separated ourselves from nature. We really began to do that big time in the early part of the 20th century, the early 1900s. When cellophane was invented, people were wrapping everything in cellophane. And if you were going to be a good housewife, you had to buy cellophane to keep your family separated from those horrible germs. Listerine was big, and the Listerine company actually invented the term halitosis. They made it up, and you've heard of this old saying, always a bridesmaid but never a bride?
Mm-hmm.
The Listerine company came up with that one as part of their marketing scheme for Listerine mouthwash.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. It was all tied to sex and loveliness and so on. It's absolutely fascinating to go back and look at the old Listerine ads. They're all about romance and sex. And Listerine and halitosis were huge forerunners of the modern Wall Street marketing industry.
Oh, it's interesting. There's a vodka that wasn't selling in America, and the advertising agency came up with Leaves You Breathless. And of course now, what a lot of alcoholics drink vodka. Not that a lot of people that like vodka, but it was a whole marketing campaign because they couldn't figure out what was the hook that could sell it, and it turned it around into the number one selling vodka in America. So it is interesting that you speak to this influence about perception. And I used to market an Indian food product, and it was shipped over from India. And when we first got it, they were trying to kind of translate into the American lexicon, and you opened it up, and inside were the instructions. And the first paragraph said, "Your husband will love you when you serve this to his friends." That was in the first paragraph of the directions.
Sounds like they took their plan right out of the Listerine playbook.
Oh, we have to laugh at ourselves because we're so absurd. The unfortunate thing is that we do become it. We do become it.
Unconsciously, too. It's so subtle. That's the whole idea behind modern marketing. You're not supposed to figure out what's going on until it's hooked you already.
So let me ask you a practical question. These antibiotic kind of things that everybody's washing their hands with, and when you go into crowds, everybody's spurting them around. What do you think of those?
Well, soap and water is preferable. We have an epidemic now of antibiotic-related diseases. That's another problem with our hospitals. And one of the ways to promote those diseases is to use low levels and low doses of antibiotics, such as you get in all hand washing and, liquid detergents and all of the cutting boards now that are impregnated with antibiotics. We need to rethink that. That's not doing us much good in the long run.
There's one thing in your book that I loved, because I think I just said this to my friend yesterday, and boy, if you remember this in your relationship, you have written in here by William James, and this is one of the chapters, your second chapter, forgetting. In the practical use of our intellect, forgetting is as important as remembering.
Well, it's no more obvious than when you look at some of the wars that have cropped up lately. Bosnia couldn't forget, that they were defeated in the Battle of Kosovo, and guess what? The 14th century. Germany couldn't forget their defeat in World War I, which led directly to World War II. There are times in life when, we do need to do a little forgetting, and that's nowhere more obvious than in the phrase, forgive and forget. I think in the business of forgiving is where forgetting really holds us in best stead. So I think that there's a strong case to be made periodically for certain forms of forgetting.
Absolutely. And real quick, tears and laughter.
Well, people who are afflicted with certain illnesses do better if they learn to cry. And this was demonstrated that a group of people who had horrible rheumatoid arthritis, if they let themselves cry in response to emotional stimuli, they had a huge improvement in the course of their disease over the next couple of years. There's something about the deep physiology of whether or not we cry or whether we prepare ourselves to laugh that affects the immune system and the inflammatory processes in the body for the good.
My girlfriend told me I wouldn't need I wouldn't need to have plastic surgery if I laughed more, because every time I did, the bags under my eyes would go away.
I'm not going to touch that.
I looked at her, I said, you know what? I'm not even going to call you what I'm thinking right now. But it's true. It's really true. And the other thing that I love that this is coming up as a kind of a thread line is music. Music.
Well, music is much more powerful than mere entertainment. I've unearthed some cases where people were comatose in neurological intensive care units who woke up, absolutely came out of coma almost immediately when certain types of music were played to them. And some of the most interesting cases were not in the kind of music you might imagine, but guess what? Christmas carols. I don't know what it is about Christmas carols that have the ability to reach people at a deeply unconscious level, but there are many cases now where people have been comatose for up to 4 months who started, when they listened to the carolers come through at Christmas in the hospital, they started pulling out their breathing tube, unhooking their IVs, and within a couple of days walked out of the hospital fully recovered.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Well, what an extraordinary book. The Extraordinary Healing Power of Ordinary Things, Dr. Larry Dossey. This is one line that he has in here from Aldous Huxley. It's only half of it. I believe in the profound and unfathomable mystery of life, which has a divine quality about it. My friend, please come back and join us. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here, finally, after all these years.
It's about time.
It is about time. All right. You take care of yourself. Thanks for listening. You can find more at www.daniellelin.com. It's spelled DANIELLELIN. We'll see you in the next hour. You're listening to the Danielle Lynn Show. DANIELLELIN.com.
It was indeed enlightening hour for all the viewers of NPAF and DanielLean.com. In the beginning of the presentation today, we have had the hiccups after 15 minutes, so we gave an absolute rerun. So the complete presentation is available now on all the social media of NPAFInc, as well as on Daniel Lean's Facebook profile. As we all know, that the best doctors in the world are the Dr. Diet, and Dr. Quiet, and Dr. Merriman, as wisely said by Jonathan Swift. And each patient carries his own doctor. Inside him is what the Norman cousin, the Anatomy of an Illness, said. So we do recommend to consult your doctor before seeking or taking any advice, as stated in the disclaimer. We indeed enjoyed today's conversation between Dr. Dossey and Miss Danielle Lynn. We look forward to bringing one more show from ocean of podcast of Danielle Lynn next month sometime. Continue to visit NPAFInc. Date and schedule will be released. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation today, and we look forward to welcome